Welcome to the Benning Report. Coming up in this edition, women officially undergo Ranger training.
And German NCOs train at Fort Benning.
Later, Fort Benning observes Anzac Day.
Welcome to the Benning Report. I'm Katie Cook.
And I'm David Wright with the Fort Benning Public Affairs Office. Thanks for watching.
On April 19th, 381 men and 19 women arrived at Fort Benning to begin the demanding Ranger course. The first 4 days of the Ranger course are known as the Ranger Assessment Phase. After being evaluated on a physical fitness test consisting of 49 push-ups, 59 sit-ups, a 5-mile run in under 40 minutes, and 6 chin-ups, a swim test, a land navigation test, and a 12-mile foot march with a 35-pound rucksack in under 3 hours. There are 192 Ranger students, including 8 women, continuing on to conduct Ranger training. This is an overall success rate of 48% for RAP Week, 48.3% for men, and 42.1% for women, and within historic norms for the Ranger course.
In a complex world, the Army needs agile and adaptive leaders to meet the challenges of a fast-paced and changing Army. Honored recently were those who have distinguished themselves and were inducted into the Officer Candidate School Hall of Fame. Melissa Bell has the details.
It was a day of celebration and recognition for Fort Benning's Officer Candidate School as several events were held honoring OCS soldiers past and present. Making recent history were 28 new members who were inducted into the OCS Hall of Fame.
It's not every day that you get to respect and look back on people that have had a great impact on an organization and represented an organization well. So, you know, it's good to definitely honor those people when you can.
Those who crossed the stage to be recognized for their significant contributions to the military and community felt humbled to be added to a hall of such notable men.
You look at the persons that have been inducted prior, PhDs, general officers, scholars, men of such stature that I feel very humbled to be even included in their ranks, nominated, let alone inducted.
For the first time in OCS Hall of Fame history, an honorary member was inducted as retired Colonel Ralph Puckett joined the Brotherhood of OCS leadership.
Colonel Ralph Puckett, well known around Fort Benning, great individual. A lot of people don't know that he has also worked a lot with OCS. He's spoken to almost every graduating class since 2013.
There to witness these great men take the stage were Bravo and Charlie companies of OCS cadets.
A lot of them don't have a lot of experience, and they're taking on a very tough role as second lieutenants. You know, they're going to hit the ground running, and I just hope that they appreciate, you know, how important their job is going to be, and those men definitely show them what right looks like, and it's something to definitely strive for in their careers.
Colonel Brasco leaves candidates with a piece of advice that was given to him as a young officer.
If you set your subordinates up for success and you set your superiors up for success, you will be successful. You don't have to worry about yourself.
Melissa Bell, Fort Benning TV.
Fort Benning's Officer Candidate School also had a new addition as 2 sets of 21-foot arches were dedicated to OCS soldiers past and present. Commander of the 199th Infantry Brigade and home of OCS, Colonel David Beachman, remarked on the appropriateness of the arches to come back to its roots as the Taylor Field Quartel was the home of OCS during World War II. The arch is a military tradition symbolizing the threshold upon which soldiers crossing it are forever changed. Community sponsors who made the construction of these arches possible are proud to have contributed to a symbol of excellence for those who serve their nation and lead with desire, dedication, discipline, and duty.
Fort Benning is paving the way for energy conservation by being the first installation to produce a large-scale solar energy project. The project is part of a U.S. Army commitment to secure 1 gigawatt of renewable energy and sustainability at U.S. Army installations by 2025.
1, 2,
Fort Benning, in conjunction with the U.S. Army Office of Energy Initiatives, Georgia Power, and the General Services Administration, held a groundbreaking ceremony for the United States Army's largest renewable energy solar power project. The project is the first of 8 created by the Department of the Army and supported by the General Services Administration, including the same-scale solar energy project to soon be built on Forts Gordon and Stewart.
Thanks to these solar arrays, these bases will be more sustainable, equally and perhaps more important, by giving them greater access to the power that they are producing. These arrays will make these bases more secure and self-reliant as well.
The solar project will be financed, designed, installed, owned, and operated by Georgia Power and will provide about 40% of peak electrical demand for the installation.
There's an ever-increasing thirst, if you will, for energy. We're trying to balance that portfolio by having more renewables a part of that. And doing it with Fort Benning allows us to have 30 megawatts of renewable energy here at this base.
Over the last 10 years, energy consumption has been reduced across the Army by 17%. But over that same 10-year period, costs have gone up 45%.
Right now, the Army spends $1.3 billion a year on the energy needed to power our installations. And so as stewards of various resources, we want to really look at how our budgets are being used. And so instead of spending that kind of money on buying fossil fuels, we would rather spend that money training and equipping our soldiers to fight this nation's war.
The project is to begin operation in 2016, covering approximately 200 acres. Katie Cook, Fort Benning TV.
Master Sergeant Jared Van Alst was an American soldier with strong ties to Fort Benning. His ability to excel and inspire others was felt throughout the infantry and special ops communities. Now, a new road on post bears the name of this fallen hero.
I'd like to introduce our distinguished guest.
Friends, family, and fellow soldiers gathered at Martin Army Community Hospital for a ceremony dedicating the road in front of the new hospital to the memory of Master Sergeant Jared Van Alst. The Laconia, New Hampshire native joined the Army in 1995 and would go on to make an impact at Fort Benning, excelling within the U.S. Army Sniper School, the Army Marksmanship Unit, and the 3rd Ranger Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment. In 2008, Van Alst joined the Special Operations community, and it was 2 years later, at age 34, that he died in Kunduz Province, Afghanistan, of wounds suffered during combat operations in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. He was posthumously recognized with a 2nd Bronze Star Medal, a 3rd Purple Heart Medal, and the Defense Meritorious Service Medal.
And Katie, Nancy, Neville, Hugh, and Ava, that's what I tell you happens here today. You know, not just here, but across the Special Operations community, across the Army. There's just no forgetting. That's what we promised you. For those of you that are a little bit outside of that community, what I can just tell you is we're honoring a very, very special individual.
The most impactful thing of having something like this is the fact that you have a memorial that has a singular name on it. And I think that you couldn't be any more significant in recognizing someone's sacrifice, duty, devotion to their country than what they've done today.
Van Alst Boulevard now connects Dixie Road and Marne Road. David Wright, Fort Benning TV. Coming up next, the Battle Lab assesses the limits of what a soldier can carry.
Members of the German Liaison Organization work towards fostering the relationship between the German and U.S. armies. But once a year, the organization gathers for an exchange of information and hands-on training. About 20 German Armed Forces Liaison Sergeants Major from across the country spent a week at Fort Benning during the annual German Liaison Conference, allowing these German NCOs to meet in a central location to exchange information and receive hands-on training.
We only have this one special week in a year where we could meet and talk about the problems. The rest we have to communicate via telephone, mobile phone or internet. Sometimes it's necessary to meet each other face to face than to write emails.
The intent of the conference is to show the different fields of possibilities that Fort Benning has to offer. These NCOs were exposed to the infantry and armor world. From training with the Army Marksmanship Unit to experiencing armor vehicle simulators.
So they got a chance to get an insight. So we build up a program consisting of those 3 blocks: internal exchange, guidance, and best practices. And then, with support of the Maneuver Center of Excellence, hosted events where we can showcase them what the Maneuver Center in Fort Benning is about. Why the Maneuver Center is the heart and soul of the U.S. Army.
Through the conference, participants had the chance to interact with leaders on several levels to better understand the climate, challenges, and culture of the forces in Fort Benning.
So that's a good thing, especially for us in the rank of a sergeant major. We meet with all the other sergeant major. We talk about what we do in our army, what they do in their army. We learn a lot from them, and they learn a lot from us. So, and if we put all the efforts we have together, we will improve our forces, both sides.
One purpose of the conference was to give those in the organization a real-life impression of the work done by each individual liaison, providing a better understanding of the interaction with their counterparts at the participants' respective team, from one of the 13 different installations participants were from.
But when it comes to the bread and butter of a soldier's daily work, this is our chance to reach out and explain how we get into it, give them some international perspective. This is not like, hey, this is how we do it and you do it, the differences. It's about showcasing the different approaches, and this could give ideas to support the development. Because at the end, we will stand in line together somewhere in the world.
Katie Cook, Fort Benning TV.
A consistent issue for sending soldiers into combat situations is managing the carrying load properly. As a soldier's burden of weight and bulk increases, there is a corresponding decrease in mobility and endurance. One program now at Fort Benning measures the effects of the soldier load on physical performance.
Today, the performance of these soldiers is being measured at the Maneuver Battle Lab for the Load Effects Assessment Program Army, or LEAP-A, a quantitative model that has been developed to identify areas of needed improvement. Currently, little is known about the performance effects of varying the characteristics of the soldier load during combat movement and tasks. To date, this soldier load has been managed by primarily focusing on weight, but bulk, fit, and comfort are also factors that must be considered. Feedback from soldiers has indicated there is often a mismatch between the equipment worn by the infantry and the obstacles they encounter on missions.
A soldier would say, a grenadier perhaps, okay, the configuration of the 203 rounds on my vest get in the way when I'm doing A, B, and C. So that's the kind of data where the vendors, the scientists, everything else take a look at it and say, okay, when we go as far as the design, the engineers say this is where we're going to place this, that, and the other thing, still being combat effective. You're not combat effective if you cannot complete a combat task.
After running early iterations, one lesson learned from the Special Operations community was to negotiate the program's obstacle course with tactical movements designed to duplicate operational tasks. And while identifying opportunities for load reduction will allow soldiers to be faster, it is the study of the configurations of the soldier load during combat movements that will allow them to be more lethal.
We're not focused on the speed. What we're focused on more is the performance measures, saying, okay, when I'm entering a stairwell, I'm going to clear up the stairwell. When I'm entering a hatch, I'm going to make sure I got security. My avenues of approach, I'm going to be cleared out before I move it there. At all times, my weapon's going to be at the ready, and I'm going to be moving as if I'm in a tactical environment. We still want to maintain as much speed as we can, but we're not going to sacrifice lethality for speed.
The data LEAP-A collects and the knowledge it generates will greatly inform the balance between protection levels, optimal equipment configurations, and result-based performance. The program originated with the Marine Corps, and now the Army has followed suit and has selected the Maneuver Center of Excellence to take the lead in developing it for the Army.
Right now in the Army, I believe the only people that have it, we have this one right here, and NATIC actually has one at their facility in Boston. But as far as the Army goes, I think we're actually developing the SOPs and everything for the Army's use of this equipment.
With new equipment constantly being fielded by the Army, the LEAP-A program will stay busy constantly looking to improve the mobility and lethality of our soldiers. David Wright, Fort Benning TV. After the break, it's an educational job fair at the Soldier for Life Center.
Soldiers can sometimes be overwhelmed at the prospect of life after the Army. The Soldier for Life Center is a one-stop shop of services ranging from college registration to job interview training, and it's an integral part of the Army's continued efforts to care for our soldiers, families, and community. Soldier for Life recently held an event designed to make an immediate and positive impact on our soldiers in transition.
The Army Education Center and the Transition Assistance Program held their first joint education job fair at the new Soldier for Life Center. The event brought together 30 colleges and more than 20 employers who are actively seeking to fill jobs. These companies and businesses understand the value of military training and are specifically looking to hire veterans.
We have interview rooms where if a prospective employee really impresses the recruiter, they can go back and do a job interview and potentially get hired on the spot.
Vocational and technical colleges were on hand to offer free demonstrations of their programs, and classes were held to help educate soldiers on how to apply for the GI Bill or turn their military training into college credit. Chattahoochee Valley Community College works closely with Soldier for Life. They provided the Army Education Center with a full 2-year scholarship to award a worthy recipient of their choice. Alexia Nicholson, the daughter of an active duty soldier, was selected for the honor and was awarded the scholarship at the event. The Soldier for Life Center now consolidates an unprecedented number of transition services that had previously been spread across 7 buildings at Soldiers Plaza. But among its top priorities are events like this one that can bring soldiers and family members into direct contact with schools and employers.
We want everybody. Nobody's exempt. Nobody is going to escape my watchful eye. It is my personal responsibility to make sure every officer, enlisted, NCO, senior NCO, retiree, everybody gets an education. If I don't get everyone a college degree, I'm committing professional malpractice, so I'm going to make it happen.
The Army Education Center and the Transition Assistance Program plan to host these large joint-sponsored events at least twice a year at the Soldier for Life Center. David Wright, Fort Benning TV.
Coming up next, Fort Benning observes Anzac Day.
Soldiers are trained to fight anywhere, at any time, and to be experts in all that they do. Relying on fellow soldiers fighting to their left and right creates a brotherhood that stood the test of time. Melissa Bell shows us how Australia and New Zealand mark the anniversary of the first major military action fought by the two countries' forces during the First World War.
Soldiers, friends, and families gathered at dawn for an Anzac Day service to commemorate the landing of Australian and New Zealand Army Corps troops on the shores of Gallipoli during World War I. In order to open a path for Allied navies during World War I, the Australian and New Zealand soldiers, who became known as Anzacs, landed on Gallipoli and met with fierce resistance from Ottoman Turkish defenders, resulting in a stalemate that lasted 8 months.
It was the first time we committed soldiers to war, and certainly World War I. So it was the start of the founding of a national identity because we were such a young nation. So it means a great deal for us.
Of all the nations that took part in the landings, Australia and New Zealand's proportion of casualties in relation to participation was the most significant, totaling over 60% of the fighting force, all of whom were volunteers.
It is a day overall of commemoration as we remember the sacrifice, but it transfers into a day of celebration as we not only do we give thanks, but we enjoy the freedoms that have been hard won by those that have gone before us.
Recognizing the sacrifices so many of their countrymen made, these two nations take pride in what they call the Anzac spirit.
They showed incredible mateship, initiative, intuition, the ability to create something from nothing, and there was a determination that came through them that shone out through that adversity. And not only now do we see that in our soldiers, in our military, but we like to think it's also part of our natural society, the Australian culture.
And this Anzac spirit was celebrated by many on Fort Benning. From Australia to New Zealand to American, French, British, and Turkish, all took turns laying flowers at the memorial, recognizing their brothers in arms.
At the end of the day, it is a great comfort to know that you are not alone, not just with your battle buddies from your own unit and your own country, but to know also that you're fighting in a common cause for for the good of humanity, to promote the freedoms that we enjoy today.
For Anzacs on Fort Benning, following the ceremony will be a traditional game of cricket, a national pastime to ring in the celebration of the day. Melissa Bell, Fort Benning TV.
You know, I think the best thing about that observance was having all of our foreign liaison officers there, especially those from Turkey.
Yes, the Battle of Gallipoli was fought against Turkey, so it's especially poignant to have them there.
I wonder how good they are at playing cricket.
Well, I'll put my money on the Aussies, but that will bring this edition of the Benning Report to an end.
But you can watch these stories and others on youtube.com/BenningTV or at benning.army.mil.
And you can also like us on Facebook.
From the Public Affairs Office, thanks for watching.